Hello everyone, and welcome to the AI show with the Syndicate, co-hosted with Peace Love Music of DeOrganized, live streamed by Bitcoin Live. Of course, I'm your host, Michael Jagdao, and I am speaking in a broadcaster's voice because that's what my parents taught me to do so that people would take me seriously. They told me that if I came to work and spoke in my native patois, maybe I wouldn't be able to get my message across. On today's show, I will be using this broadcaster voice to introduce you to the future today. You know, Gibson said the future is here, it's just not evenly distributed yet. And today's show is going to introduce us to three people who are transforming their lives with AI. It used to take people a long time to do stuff like this, but now we have the ability to have a computer talk to a computer. And when you can have a computer talk to a computer, you'll have two people talking that already have an understanding. And just like this blue figure, you will join us on the other side. You'll notice there's a lot of tabs up here, and each of these tabs are AI tools we'll be on gatekeeping today. So for example, if you want to create a website, a lot of people want to create websites. Okay, well, this is what Wix looks like now. Wix used to be very simple. It's much more complex now. We'll also show you trading solutions like OpenBB that allows you to get a full purview of all your trades in one place. We'll also show you CodePen that allows you to do fancy things with just HTML, CSS, and Java. This isn't your grandma's internet anymore. We have a lot more tabs to look through today, but before we begin, let us meet the rest of the panel. Again, if you're just joining us, welcome to the Syndicate AI show, co-hosted with Peace Love Music of DeOrganized Media on Bitcoin Live. What's going on, Peace? We have
Good
a lot
morning,
to talk
Michael.
today. 80 vibes, Goatcoin. Where do you want to start first?
Honestly, wherever you want to go is cool with me. I love what you're working on. We have this awesome panel of guests here. We got, well, I don't know. You want to go through and introduce everybody?
Before I introduce you to them, quick story. It'll make everything make sense. So, there was once 4 friends: truth, water, falsehood. Truth, falsehood, water, and fire. 4 friends: truth, falsehood, water, and fire. And they get hungry one day and they hear that there's cattle up on the great mountain. So they decide to set off. Halfway through the trip, falsehood takes water to the side and says, "You know what, water, if you quench fire, there'll be more food for the 3 of us." And he thinks it over, does the math, and he says that's a good idea. So water quenches fire, and then there were 3. The 3 of them finally get to the bottom of the mountain: truth, falsehood, and water. Water then realizes that without fire, water cannot ascend to the mountain top. And so water has to stay on the bottom. Today, at the top of the mountain, truth and falsehood are fighting over how much cattle they should share between the 2 of them. This was told to me by Ma Harris and Rita Cox, and it's a story about interdependence. Does that make sense? Jim Collins talked about, to get to good to great, you had to put the right people on the right seats on the right bus. And today we have a panel of people who sit very well on their seats. No diddy. So we have emerging artists like GPSC, who's taking full advantage of the technology functionality bed of Stacks, for example, doing things with hash lips, right? Not a lot of people know how to do that, but if you want that done, he can get you started quickly. Stu, if you're looking for an authentic baked potato, it's kind of like Irish poutine. We use fries that use mashed potatoes. Man, that guy's the guy to go to. He has a channel on TikTok where he just makes different kind of spud things. But, over the past couple weeks, he's emerged from the potato patch and become a game developer, which is insane. And that brings me to Aiden. Aiden is actually the younger, more improved version of Stu, right? It's what Stu would have become if he was, 50 years younger. Aiden is having his life transformed by mentors and AI in kind of a digital menage a trois. And finally, we have Vibes, last but not least. And Vibes is really key to this discussion, because if you launch a product in a forest with nobody to hear it, have you really launched a product? And so a lot of people that are technical, like myself, sometimes over-focus on the product side of go-to-market and forget about the market side of go-to-market. The Challenger sales model said that in a world where your product, brand, and service are the same as everyone else's, it's only your sales process that differentiates you. So we're going to catch up with Vibes very soon to kind of bring it all together once we talk about what it's like to go from ideation to manifestation in shorter time ever possible with AI. So again, welcome everyone. We have a great show for you today. GPSC, do you want to lead us in the sermon for Goatcoin?
Is he frozen?
I can't tell. He's such a calm guy. GPSC,
I don't know if he,
can you hear me? I'm trying to see if he's... Oh, there we go. So GPSC, I was wondering if you would lead us as we talk about the closure, however temporary or permanent, of Goatcoin.
Yeah. So it looks like yesterday we had Meme Goat, the Meme Goat platform rugged. Unfortunately, a lot of people had their tokens locked up on their staking platform, and they deleted their socials. They also uh, their website is down, and the Goat coin got sold off along with all of the tokens that were locked on the platform. It's very unfortunate. The creator slash dev of Meme Goat came up with a story. I don't know how true it was about how he was affected by something in IRL, and shortly after that, they went ahead and started selling off the tokens. Everybody staked on their platform. So it's very unfortunate. A lot of OGs within the Stacks ecosystem raised red flags and said, "Hey, I don't trust Goat," and people started questioning, had they had audits done, and their methods of producing a platform for people to come stake their hard-earned assets with. Um, so there was people that had suspicions from the start that they were bad actors in the space. Um, it's very unfortunate that not everybody uh, did did their own research, kind of followed the crowd. This kind of happens with these types of things. There's always going to be somebody that is affected. Um, I do hope that some of the OGs in the ecosystem uh, were able to reach some users and prevent that from happening to them. So there's a fine line between FUD and warning people about things that they see problems within this space. So finding a balance between those two things um, is what I think makes a good leader in this community. Um, so we need to really pay attention to those that have found that right balance. You know, Make sure that we're doing research, um, not taking others' financial advice that is, you know, they're unlicensed to give advice on finances. So these are all important things happening in the space. And unfortunately, these types of things have to happen for us to grow and learn. And I think that's what I have with Meme Code for the moment.
Do you think we're growing at all?
I do. I do think that we're growing, and I think growing pains are hard to go through, especially seeing so many of our community members that we know and love and have gotten to know over time get affected. Especially no matter how big or small they were affected, we don't like to see these types of things. Some people can afford to lose more than others, and that doesn't matter. Um, what matters is that people that were affected um, lost their hard-earned assets, and some people can't afford to lose those assets at all. They have, they're making their living on things like this. So seeing somebody, no matter um, what circumstance you are going through in real life, it does not excuse the actions that took place with the Meme Goat platform.
It's almost like there is no love lost in decentralization.
Unfortunately, yes. I mean, it's one of those things like we work in a decentralized space, right? People are able to buy and sell as they deem fit, and unfortunately, some people trust a little. It's easier to earn their trust. So, um, and
Well,
some
isn't it a
people are more
balance of trust and speculation? Does that make
very
sense?
much so, very
Right?
much.
The
Uh,
siren song of gambling
yeah,
and the opportunity to turn tokens into collateral that generate yield. It turns out that that siren song will continue to attract speculators till the end of time. Does that make sense?
absolutely.
Right? Like Peace Love and I had Goat Coin on the show, right?
We
Seemed
did.
like a very
Yeah,
nice
we
guy.
had him on. Well, so that was a reaction to.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a reaction to Ian's initial report on the state of DeFi platforms on Stacks and their level of audit, or the public available information about their auditing. And he assured us that he had ongoing auditing. And then when he told us he was going to provide the results he had, but he never actually provided any auditing results that were. I think the only auditing results he provided were actually results from like an initial audit that suggested a bunch of corrections and changes, made a bunch of recommendations, but there was nothing else available after that. And he had told us he had this ongoing auditing mechanism going on. But this wasn't it doesn't appear to have been an exploit and a problem with his platform and the coding and the contracts. It seems to have actually just been a bad actor rug, which is really a shame, because there was obviously a lot of effort and time put into building the platform and adding the functionality there and putting something out that really did seem to add some value added functionality for users in the space. So what I don't know is if proper auditing would have determined or disclosed how easy it would have been for them to rug the project. And if that's something we need to focus on as well on the community side of things, or if there's a way we can kind of look at that type of thing to protect the community, to make sure that we're not patronizing and or promoting, not that we promoted them as a platform. When we had them on, it was specifically to ask him about his auditing and safety practices, because of that conversation that had started happening on Twitter, where they became very prickly about the accusations. I feel badly. I don't think his.
Sorry.
I wish it didn't go that way. Right.
While you're talking, I want to show you the audit from CoinFabric. I'm just going to share my screen. Keep going. Here we go.
So yeah, it's very unfortunate that it happened. I got the impression in talking with him that he was being honest about his intentions, and that seems to be actually inaccurate now.
How does this make you feel? You're looking at the audit.
So the audit wasn't the issue. I don't know. Like, I didn't read through the whole audit page anyway. I only went by what other people said about it. And that it had made a bunch of recommendations, but there was no follow-up information provided beyond that. Which, never actually became more of a conversation in the community after that either. We really weren't talking about this the last few weeks about follow-up on these things. Partly because there's really not anyone specifically set up from a vested interest standpoint to really be monitoring these things regularly. It doesn't pay to do so. Unless somebody's actually paying you to do so. So I think we need to figure out a way to promote better security practices in the space and how that might be applied. Maybe there's an AI piece in analyzing these audits to help us understand what potentialities are. Like, would that have determined the potentiality and therefore maybe even a likelihood of this being a bad actor situation?
There is not a smart contract audit on the planet that is going to tell you anything about the intentions of the individual with their hands on the purse strings.
But it can tell you that somebody has their hands on the purse strings.
Correct. So I think, the worst experiences teach. Experience is the best teacher, and the worst experiences teach the best lessons. Welcome to the worst experience part.
Yeah, that's true. You can't learn lessons for somebody else either.
That's true. Yeah, I think the first thing to do in crypto when you're learning how to trade is to lose all your money. That's kind of like the rite of passage.
Sooner the better.
The sooner the better.
Before you make too much.
Yeah. So thank you, GPSC, for taking the bullet on explaining that. There's a reason I asked you to do it, so that you could say it, not me, kind of thing. That gives it kind of plausible deniability.
I'll take the fall, man. Don't worry.
So I appreciate the insulation and risk management. It's like it's like being a gladiator and telling everyone to hold, but then telling your guy to stand right in front of you. Anyways, speaking of asking people to take the bullet, Stu, welcome back. We see you still have your tan from this year's crop yielding. How has the yield been going?
Hi, peace, love, good vibes, Michael.
Aidan, welcome.
How's everybody keeping today? It's always good to have your own comedian on every space you have, so yeah, all's good, guys, all is good. Thanks for hosting the space today, and I'm looking forward just to showing, the show that I've put together, purely as a fun piece more than anything, so what would you like to know, and what sort of questions would you like to ask?
So from a coding perspective, where were you 2 weeks ago?
Oh, listen, I would say almost a level of anxiety. You can look at it, you're going, where do we even start? There's a fear of even looking at it. And to be honest, with the guidance then with yourself, giving a few ideas how to prompt, explaining how to use Cursor. This is the platform I've used. I've used a platform called Cursor, which is an AI element built into it. With you helping me to get that set up, and as I said, giving some ideas how to prompt. That actually, took away the fear of it. But then even again, when I come back to you and ask you questions, you were like, well, why are you asking me? Because I'm going to have to ask the AI for you. Go and ask it yourself. And so I was like, yeah, okay, you're right. And off I went. And yeah, it's been a fun experience. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, because I remember asking you, well, now you want to do this. What do you want to design? What do you want to make? Well, I don't know. I don't really want to make anything. I just want to see how this thing works. And then we talked on, and we came up with a bit of an idea. For those of you who do or don't know me, myself, and bit by bit, we put together the 100-day giveaway, which actually run for 150 days, and have done, that was very successful. A great onboarding tool, and this you'll understand when I talk about this here as well after. What we've seen also with, hosting the spaces, then we call it the after party, and in hosting the after party, we'd often give away NFTs or stuff like that there, and the normal way of doing this is, go and make a post, make it funny, make it cool, do whatever, and you're going to win an NFT. Fabulous, great job. So let's just imagine, I'm going to use Gigapeppy as an example here. So Gigapeppy's on having an interview, brilliant, fantastic. You made a cool post, said amazing things about Giga and all the rest, and made a cool post or whatever. Posted up, happy days. He'll send across your art over to your wallet. Will you look at it again? Maybe, potentially, probably not. I don't know. But there's more of a chance that you're not actually going to have any sort of interaction with this here. So we came up with Michael and I came up with this idea. How could we devise a way that could create a connection with people, with the art? So we come up with this idea, and was the most simplest idea that a game called Sliders. So here we have Sliders, which is actually made by Stone. So there's that element of advertising there as well. You have all these artists from ordinals to you've ordinals to the stacks communities, bringing everybody together, because this is always about bringing people together. Okay, I like to connect, I like to collaborate. I think we are always stronger together in that there. So put this together. So what happens is, all of a sudden now you're playing with this game. So listen, yet again, Giga, listen, what do you call? You want to give away your art? Okay, guys, go over to this site, click on this specific piece of art, and see how quick you can do this piece of art. Now there's different levels. There's easy, medium, and hard. For the ones who really can't do this, they pick the easy one, like what Michael has chosen now. And so it's but here's the thing. Yes, you're under this here. In this gallery, you see the artist's details, their Twitter link, their link to their, it should be Magic Eden or on Gamma, whatever it is, a little bit about them. Hey ho. So you go in and you play with the art, but all of a sudden, as you're playing with it, you do get an interaction with this. You do get a connection with this here. Okay. Now, once you've actually eventually successfully completed this here art, what actually happens then is you will get a prompt, say congratulations, and you can share this here to Twitter. With this here, that also shares the artist, well, whatever name you want to call this here, the piece of art. We can be very creative with that there. Tags your name, and then you post that up on the thing. And so yet again, it's creating more algorithms for you as an artist, getting more attention towards there. And happy days. So it's yet again bringing people together, getting you out there, getting people more to actually play with your art. So if you so that's what we have devised called Sliders. It will be it's live now. You can go and have fun with it. If people want to put more art on it, I mean, I've listed you on there, as you've seen, Giga, as well. I went in and screenshotted all your art. I'm sorry, man. I apologize. Don't shoot me for it. And so yeah, and it's, as I said, if anybody wants to use it, they're more than welcome to. If you want to add some pieces on, they're more than welcome to. So yeah, there you go. That's the rundown of it, guys.
Congratulations,
Yeah, that's
Stu.
awesome.
Yeah.
I want to circle back
see
to
some
you.
real potential in what you're working on. Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Just had to jump in real quick, dude.
No, it's all good. I want to circle back to you, Stu. Or I guess oval back to you, the potato. We have a seasoned game developer at the ripe age of 19. He's been transforming not only his web development, but also game development experience. And I think it was because you saw one of his work, you were like, wait a minute, can I do that? Aiden, I know you have to go to class, and it's actually perfect, but do you mind walking us through how you've turned into a paid game and software developer at the age of 19? Because there's a lot of people listening, a lot of Gen Z who want to follow this career path, and you've kind of seen where the dead bodies are.
Yeah, for sure. So this is something I actually started at a very young age. So just with programming development in general, age of 13 years old, I was getting into this. And with any sort of career, it takes a lot of time. It's not something that's learned very quickly. And so when I was younger, I never learned good learning fundamentals, so I was all over the place. But as I got older, as I continued aging, yes, 13, that's when I started. I'm 19 now, so it's been quite a few years, but still not been too much if I'm looking at the grand scheme of things. So what happens is that as I got older, I really learned to worry about my fundamentals. And I worked on my fundamentals, and I learned how to build and complete projects. After I did that, I started to find more success as I was able to share my work with people. And one thing I want to encourage everybody, especially with this new AI craze, is that yes, building is more possible than ever, and there is more opportunities to supercharge your learning than there ever was before. And this is something that people are so scared about. Everybody's got a doomer mindset. They're freaking out. But the reality is there's so much opportunity out there, and people need to take it. People need to try to learn. I hear all the time people are so worried that AI will take all the jobs. And I do not think that's the case, because if you build your fundamentals, you need to know how to use your fundamentals to build with AI. And if you don't, once you start scaling up and getting complex, you'll find yourself lost. So there's still so much opportunity to learn.
Um, there are a lot of people who are trying to follow in your career path. What were the things or the people that really 10x'd your growth along the path?
Yeah, so a few years ago, I met Rocky. He's a senior engineer at a health company. And ever since we got in contact, we both saw the potential, but especially he saw the potential in me. And so what happened is after that, a lot more opportunity came my way. And if you've ever heard the phrase, luck is when skill meets opportunity, because it's true. It's about who you know. And so I have to thank all the people that I've met throughout my journey for bringing me to where I am now. Because without those people, it wouldn't be possible. And I probably wouldn't have learned as much. Because ultimately, no matter what you're working on, it's about people and it's about who you know.
How has Rocky, as a mentor, helped you embrace and really Hadouken the power of AI? Because you used AI to land a job offer, essentially. Can you talk about that and your relationship with Rocky in terms of kind of, accelerating your production?
Yeah. So Rocky is always very on top of all the current trends. And I tend to be up there, but I am not all the way at the mountaintop. He is at the peak of the mountain. He's always ready. And so he is always throwing tools at me. He's like, we need to look at this, we need to try this. And we're always thinking about how do we optimize our workflow? How do we become more efficient with a small team? And so he's always pushed me to continue using new AI tools in order to push for more productivity and more efficiency. And ultimately, I would argue in the past year, I have more than cut the time in half for the time it takes to build using these new tools.
Now let's talk to the advanced developers in the room, the people who've been coding for 10 to 20 years. Sometimes the more people code, the less they use AI, which is kind of a paradox. Maybe they're intimidated by what the AI is going to say. How, from a very technical perspective, how do you use things like Cursor? Imagine there's a 20-year veteran of code but has not used Cursor yet. How is Cursor changing your life, and what are you noticing as you've been building with it?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, your fundamentals are very important in this because you're going to need to describe very specifically what and how you want done. So AI can do a lot for you, but you need to know what to tell it. And so one of the things I've learned is that you tell AI one thing at a time because you need it to be hyper-focused on that or it will mess up. If you ask it to multiple things at a time, it's going to mess up. And so it's one of those things where if you understand your architecture good, you don't have to spend all the time programming because you know what needs to be done. So you ask the AI to write that for you, but you need to know the skills on how to do it, and you need to tell it specifically how to do it. You can't be vague to it. And so the way I use Cursor is I use very specific sets of instructions based on everything I've learned in order to build.
So now as you head back to class, you talked about the doomerism for a bit, and you're not the first person I've heard that from. What is the source of doomerism, and what is the sense on campus? You're in computer science, right? I go to TikTok and I see a bunch of people saying computer science is dead, right? Is it dead?
No, it is absolutely not dead. And I would be scared if everybody stopped learning computer science. Now, I will argue that the gap between juniors and seniors are going to get bigger and bigger. And this is just like the economy, how the gap between the lower wealth, the more poorer population, the wealthier population, it continues to grow. And we're seeing the same phenomenon with development and jobs, right? And so when I speak about doomerism, a lot of people see that and they feel like they can't succeed. But I encourage people to keep pushing forward because everybody in the world is going to spread negativity and try to blackpill you. And I disagree with that. I think you always have to push forward. And so one of the things I tell people is just to push forward and keep learning because that's the only way to come out ahead. So don't be part of the doomerism. Spread more positivity and tell people they can do stuff. because
It's
I can.
almost like to win in ping pong, you can convince your opponent to become depressed. A ping pong, what's it really
They
worth,
sit
right?
there and insult them. I'm sure they'll feel great. You know what I mean? Like, you know,
Is that a thing, or did you just make that up? I'd never heard of that before. Demoralizing the ping pong opponents.
I've been thinking about Jenny. You guys know? Have you met Jenny before?
No.
Stu, you met Jenny? Vibes, tell them about Jenny. They don't know about Jenny.
They all know Jenny, but you gotta articulate it. You put me on to Jenny.
In Forrest Gump, there's a famous phrase. I'm not going to do the accent because I don't want to get canceled. Jenny, why don't you love me? Jenny refers to generational wealth. So the next time you're out and about and you see a beautiful woman, that could be Jenny, right? What is a man without his Jenny? Forrest Gump spent his entire 2 hours and 47 minutes trying to get Jenny. And he only got her when she needed someone to take care of her kid and babysit. Isn't that tragic? So,
There was
Jenny,
a lot tragic about that movie, but yeah. So
Jenny,
you're saying Jenny was a metaphor for generational wealth?
I think
Or
Forrest Gump was pursuing generational wealth through Jenny the entire movie. And all he got was the burden of child rearing. It's pretty dark. Hey, Aiden.
You look at that as a burden.
Different cultures. So, Aiden, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think at 19, you are speed running life.
Yeah, hell yeah,
So,
man.
as you think about, you're kind of speed running this whole thing, what is the main thing that you're keeping the main thing? Even as you're progressing in your career and have full-time job offers, even while you're in first year.
To me, it's about the big picture view. So my big picture view is you get the degree and you study hard and you learn your fundamentals in college and you continue to improve your fundamentals on math and computer science. From there, while I know I'm going to be in a good position, looking at a big picture view, I know having a degree is a lot more helpful, and I know it's required in a lot of jobs nowadays. Whether or not I will pursue a job is irrelevant, because looking at the big picture view, I don't know what's going to happen in 4 years. I don't know what the industry is going to look like. The best thing I can do is prepare and stay on track with technologies, right? People like Rocky help me a lot because they are on the tip of the mountain. They know everything that's going on. And so it's a lot easier to stay updated that way. So I'm always worrying about the big picture view. I'm not worrying about too much about the present. Does that make sense? I think stuff in the present changes a lot. I mean, if you're looking at the stock market and you're looking in the past hour, it's going to be all over the place. You can't use that as a guide, right? You can't look in the past 2 minutes and see what's going on, right? You need to look at a big picture view to understand what's actually going on. And that's how I look at things in life as well.
I remember reading a book by Jason Selk. He was the performance coach for the St. Louis Cardinals when they won the World Series. And he said that the problem with goal setting is that we spend 99% of our time in non-attainment. And so he said that if you have an objective, like let's say you want to go D1 for soccer, if you keep looking at that goal, sometimes you'll just see the gulf between where you are and where you want to be. And he said that you need to break down this overall objective or product goal into process goals. So he said if you want to play basketball or play soccer, running, passing, shooting, right? Those are the things that you practice every day. And we hear that from Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. So Aiden, before you go, what are the 3 fundamentals that you're focusing on right now? What is the dribbling, passing, and shooting of someone looking to pursue a career in computer science, whether it's game development, web development, AI, whatnot?
Yeah, so I'm keeping my mind open to opportunities. And so the things I'm focusing on are math, programming, and computer science principles. if you understand your computer science principles well, it's a lot easier to program because you need to understand how processing works. You need to understand memory, multi-threading, stuff like that. And I think math is very important because it gives you more of a diverse. Computers are all math, right? But whatever you're working on, especially if it's game development, if you have a good understanding of math, it's really going to make it easier, especially physics in games. And so a lot of the math that I've learned in school, yes, it's applicable.
Oh,
So all the people
I
that say it's a waste of time in college, well, it really depends on what you're trying to do, and it depends on what you're working on. Because if you're doing front-end web development all day, math probably isn't as important. Calculus probably isn't most important. But if you're making games, you're dealing with physics, you're dealing with physics engines, you're gonna need to know your math. Yes. And so that's one of my fundamentals that I want to be good at. It's something I focus on. Does it matter to my career? No. It's not required, if that makes sense. I can get a job not knowing math, but to me, it's an important fundamental because it opens more doors. If I want to work on my own game projects or physics projects or simulations, or if I want to diverse my field more. That's the way I see it. It's the same with computer science principles and programming. I don't need to know language.
I would suggest that math skills, while not necessarily required for UI UX design front end stuff, will still help you in actually figuring out how to put the piece. It's still engineering. You're still trying to figure out, if I do this, then I need this to happen, and that kind of stuff. And that's all still math based. So it's fundamental across the board as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and it all comes back to problem solving. It does.
Right.
Math is all problem solving. Why are you learning program? To solve problems, right? It's all the same stuff. So
If someone was starting from scratch today, let's say they're 19, they're just watching this right now, and previous to this moment they've been intimidated to start their career coding, what would you tell them before they began?
Yeah, so for somebody who's starting but worried about it, I encourage anybody to start right now, like this moment, right after this live stream, or right now. Go start. You won't truly know if you like it until you've been doing it for a little bit, until you start learning it. You'll quickly find out whether you like it or not. Many people get into the field and they're like, oh no. And I know this because I attend programming classes. And what happens is there's about 30 to 40 people the first day. And by the last day, there's usually 6 to 7 people. So if you think it's for you, go start. It's a really rewarding career, and you'll be able to do anything that comes to your mind. It's really rewarding. But don't procrastinate. Don't be scared of technology improving. Because if you decide to be part of the field, you're always going to have to adjust to a field that's constantly changing. And it's like that with the rest of life.
What class do you have?
Next,
Yeah.
public speaking.
Public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Oh, you do okay with that too, I bet,
Yes.
based on our experience.
It goes
with
hand in
you.
hand.
Amazing.
No, it doesn't actually. There's a lot of devs that have a problem with that. There's a lot of guys with that have a problem with that. So it's a unique skill combination actually.
It is. My argument is attending live streams, Twitter spaces, talking with strangers, WhatsApp calls, meetings, interviews, public speaking. That all goes hand in hand. I agree. Developers tend to really struggle to articulate their ideas, and they
Not all developers, but a lot of times that's an issue.
Right.
So
that's why there's stigma attached to it, right?
Right.
But
it's good that you're aware of that skill and you're working on it. It's necessary. It's a necessary skill to be usually devs have to find someone to do that for them. You know, often I should say, not usually necessarily, but yeah, that's great that you're that you're working on that. And Hero Gamer wants to know. Hero Gamer wants to know where to buy Aiden coin.
So please teach them how to launch it.
Launching on Stacks tonight. All right, y'all.
Early.
I gotta head out.
Minutes.
Take care.
To do a Stack City. Thanks for joining us.
Amazing. So this kind of brings us to vibes, and I want to come back to Stu because I want to show off more of the game. But I remember my sales mentor a few years ago showed me this book called The Challenger Sales Model. And in that book it said, in a world where your product, brand, and service are the same as everyone else's, it's only your sales process that differentiates you. And he said, it used to be good enough to know about your customer to make a sale. Today, the role of sales is primarily that of innovation. So Vibes, in a world where even if you have AI and even if you have a beautiful product and even if you pass the audit, that doesn't mean anyone's going to use it. How do you see your role as someone who has an app top 10 in the App Store, who 100 million views, 1.9 million likes on TikTok? How do you see the role of technology and product in a place where people can snap their fingers and clone your product? How do you see business today as someone who's developed a huge audience?
I like both sides. I think if we're going to chop it up, I'm not only going to speak from my perspective, because there's a lot of successful people who've done the other way, right? Just head down, focus, product, technical, don't go to parties, code all day. And that works. That works for some people. I knew that wasn't what I was starting with in terms of a skill set. I knew I could get people excited. I could build some energy around these brands. I could get people to pay attention. I could get pretty girls involved, throw a party, have rich people in the room. And I used all of this to my advantage. I built a network. I built a very strong network. A lot of people always want to work with me on something, regardless of what it is. And I said, my position on the, just a bit, is it popping right now?
It's popping just a bit. Is it popping with you guys?
A little bit.
The audio, is, what you're saying is so important.
You might be a little hot. You might be a little high.
That's
I actually turned your volume down a little bit, so I can also attenuate you up a little bit.
Maybe if I'm speaking from here.
That's better. No more popping. You guys don't hear any popping, right?
Beautiful. So let's start again because I really want them to hear it. So the idea is that in a world where your product, brand, and service are the same as everyone else's, because anyone can take a screenshot, paste it into an AI, and look at me, I'm Apple now. How do you think about the role of the people who bring in the audience versus the people who make the hot dogs, so to speak?
I think both are needed. So I would never speak down on product or technical people. And I think they're extremely important to the operation, right? You need a product. If I'm going to go sell something, get people excited, what am I selling? So you need both sides, 100%. I think that's why there's a Steve Jobs, there's a Wozniak. And I still believe in those kind of roles. I think some people are gifted in certain suites versus others. Doesn't mean I don't understand product. Doesn't mean I don't understand the language my developers are talking to me about. Doesn't mean I'm not involved in design. I'm actually involved heavily in everything. Because if I'm selling it to someone and I'm pitching this value, I'm getting people excited, I got to make sure I know what I'm talking about. And I'm not some con oil, snake oil salesman, right? So to end that note off, I stay in my lane. I say this every live stream I'm on. I stay in my lane. I know what I'm good at. I know what I do well, better than most. And with the way our team works, whether we're launching a coin, whether we're building apps, whether we're doing whatever we do, everyone has a seat on the bus, is what you started this discussion with.
So a lot of people don't know about they know about how you've helped teens, but because of the demand, you've begun expanding your experience catalog. Yes, let's say. Can you talk about what's coming up in the next 3 weeks with Good Vibes X in Toronto? Who's going to be there and why they're going to be there?
For sure. So I started my career in the youth space. I've been public speaking at local high schools and universities for, I'd say, 3-4 years. I was sponsored by Dave & Buster's, Burger King, giving these national tours. And I'd basically motivate students like a young version of Tony Robbins, if anyone knows who that is. And that's why people called me Mr. Good Vibes. So that was my whole persona I built. And I knew in this world we live in, this attention economy, if you build a persona, you have tremendous leverage. And if people pay attention to you, you can launch any product you want. So I took that attention I had and these school board relationships, and I launched these apps that benefit students. That's how they got to top 10 in the App Store. That's how we built a more significant following, etc. And when I was doing that, it was helping them get jobs. It was helping them navigate careers, financial literacy, mental health, the whole shebang. I used all of that momentum and the profits from that and my connections to start investing in the markets. Had a successful exit as an angel investor and got more active in crypto previously to when Trump was elected. Obviously, very good returns after that happened. And now we're seeing the market in a very bullish market. So it's exciting times ahead, right? And it's what I've been speaking about a lot. I'm hosting parties now with people who are in wealth management, who want to invest, who are asking me, how do we invest? They want to join the fund, etc. So I've been a little bit more focused on the adult side of what we do, but our student operation is still going strong. It's just with all the money on the table with the adults, it's hard to ignore.
So we talked about this last show. We are in the midst of the greatest wealth transfer of all time. In Canada, 25% last time I checked of the population is over the age of 65. And so in the next 5 to 20 years, we're going to experience the greatest wealth transfer of all time, from traditionalists to baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, and then Gen Z. A lot of people think that Gen Z is actually going to be one of the primary benefactors of this greatest wealth transfer.
I think Gen X is going to eat everybody's lunch. That's just my opinion.
If they make it that long. Does that make sense? Right?
Pretty scrappy.
Yeah. With the AN, you understand. You know what I mean? Everything's a bit more precarious than it used to be. And so as demographics explains 2/3 of everything. You ever heard that? And so when we had the baby boom, that's when we see Huggies and Barbie and fast food. And, it was started by the sexual revolution with cars. And so I look at Gen Z and I look at their prospects in terms of opportunities. McDonald's isn't hiring like they used to. Home Depot isn't hiring like they used to. And in talking to Vibes, I'm finding that just like Aiden has, they're being almost forced into entrepreneurship pretty aggressively because of a lack of opportunities, right? So Vibes, what's going through the minds of as they look at accepting the greatest wealth transfer of all time from their parents and grandparents at the same time as they're kind of like a menial job apocalypse? What's going through their mind? Aiden mentioned doomerism, but you probably see it up close.
Yeah, I know a lot of Gen Z members, I'll call them, who are making money in the markets themselves. I know a kid who was 17. He had his older brother's wallet, and he made, I think it was from $8,000 to $150,000 with Solana before everyone started paying attention to it. But he's been plugged into these Telegram chats and the culture. And he came up to me because I spoke at his high school, and he was telling me about this concept. And that's when I started paying attention to it a bit more and getting excited, because I said, okay, that's interesting. That's what they're paying attention to. There's real money here. Let's take a deeper look. So as I'm speaking with them, I'm kind of getting first access to what's trending and, what's about to really pop off, because I'm connected to the younger side that's coming up. And they don't talk to their parents about this stuff. They don't talk to their uncles. Like, nobody really gets them. But when Mr. Good Vibe shows up, it's like that guy's the bridge between both worlds, the young world, the corporate world. So they're comfortable sharing and getting advice, or even putting me onto some sort of game. And I pay attention to them. I don't treat them like they're little kids, because I can see that they're competent. They just need direction in other areas of their life, perhaps. And whether it's because I have a nice car, or I have pretty girls around me, or I have businesses, they pay attention to one or the other. I do martial arts. I've structured my brand in a way where these young people, one way or the other, they'll look at Mr. Good Vibes as some sort of influential figure.
What are the current flavor of influencers in their life right now for Gen Z? Who's influential right now? If there's parents listening, who are the individuals that their kids are paying attention to right now, whether they know it or not? And what are those influences like?
There's a lot. And I've studied the market and tailored my brand a bit to see what they're paying attention to. I think there's obviously the guys like Tate. Tate has a strong hold on the younger generation's attention. They obviously like the lifestyle he lives. So there's Tate, whether adults like it or not, they just pay attention to him, right? Then there's guys like Jake Paul, the typical YouTubers, Mr. Beast, Kai Cenat, the streamers. They're paying attention to people who it's not even about competence anymore. It's actually just about how exciting can you be. Now, we don't have to like this, but it's where the market is at. And it's all based on, can you get people to pay attention to you? Can you get them to buy into whatever you're pushing out there? And sure, there's going to be some people who aren't morally right when they're pushing something, and there's going to be other people who use that power for good. I try to use it for good. I mean, I've built apps that actually push them forward in life. I know I have influence. I don't misuse it. But yeah, on the other side, there is a dark side to all this. There's going to be people who are good at getting attention, and whether they rug pull something, whether they create something that harms society, it happens, both sides.
You recently brought someone on your team. Are you able to talk about him and why you hired him for all the students listening, to see what it takes to actually get a job without a lot of experience, but with, gumption, courage, and persistence?
Yeah, this was a student who's doing some sales for us. I spoke at his high school 5 years ago. He's grown up now. He's in university, and he's always supported the mission. I actually partied with him at university, helped him get some, I won't get into that story, but it was a good time, and he really likes the ecosystem we have going on here. And he said, yo, like, let me come work for you. No, I don't want to just party. Like, let me be useful. I said, awesome. What are you good at? And he said, well, I'm good at sales. I can talk. I said, that's always useful to me. So we brought him in, and he's been doing some cold outreach. He's, pushing some stuff we have in the university market. He actually got me a few university speaking gigs. So this is someone who's grown up with the ecosystem. And it's always been my hypothesis that if I can reach them while they're young and actually deliver value to them as they grow up, they'll be loyal to our army. And we're seeing it play out now. I just needed a little bit of time.
Incredible. So what's next for this event in 3 weeks?
Well, I promised all the guys who are attending, these are money people, right? So they're coming to have a good time, and we're not necessarily always going to be talking business. So for the sake of the recording, the best way I can put it is I have to make sure the ratio in the room is favorable, man to woman ratio. And I have to make sure it's a fun environment. So my focus right now, while I do want to talk about the markets and the fund, and that's what the business side of what we do is focused on, I'm going to make sure this is a fun party, a good vibes party.
Where's it going to be?
One of these fancy places. The location's private only to people who are attending, but one of these fancy places.
Nice. So if you're in Toronto right now and we're hearing your voice, what would you tell them about what the experience is like at Good Vibes X coming up in 3 weeks?
I grew up looking at Hugh Hefner, now controversial figure, depending who's listening and who supports him or who doesn't. But I think he had something cool. I'm just going to say it. I think he had something cool. Regardless of your opinion on what he did with it, I think it was cool. And I've always watched the documentaries. I think my version is Good Vibes, right? Just a new gen version. We'll do some things differently so we don't get as much heat. But I like that energy. I like mixing business and pleasure. I think, why just make all this money if you're not going to have fun with it? That's view things, right? It doesn't mean be dumb with your money, but I like to have fun if I'm making money. And yeah, that's the simplest way I could put it. New generation Playboy, slightly different execution, good vibes.
In Ireland, they call Stu the potato Playboy. And I want to circle back to Stu. Right? Is that what they called you? In Edinburgh? Is that in Ireland? Or is that in Greece?
Yeah, you're close enough. That's fine. We'll accept that. That's fine.
He just called you Scottish, Stu.
That's fine. That's fine.
Scottish?
I'll accept that. Scottish, Irish, or Welsh is fine.
I thought they were
neighbors.
like on the map. If I put my finger on the map, I touch both places, don't I?
Now you're just flexing how thick your fingers are, aren't you?
That's what she said.
Anyway, Fat
back
Finger
to
Mike. That's what they call me in Malvern.
Yeah, just from the waist up.
No, I appreciate that vibes. So what I wanted to do as we kind of wind down today is, this is an AI show, right? And for the audience who is like, hey, I want to play. How come I can't come to a Good Vibes event? I want to code. How come I can't code? I want to show you some things you can do with HTML CSS, and JavaScript. In keeping with the theme of Europe, think of HTML as England, and CSS as France, and JavaScript as Spain. And if you have people who speak these three languages, you can create solutions for the European Union. That's right, the European Union. I'm going to show you some other options that are very, even for beginners right now. This is a tool called Spline, which is changing the way people think about front ends. Going back, let's look at English, the England, France, and Spain of software development. This is just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. These are the languages that people are using to create solutions. This is not your grandma's code anymore. Look at that. So you can actually have 3D experiences just using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So I'll walk you through a few of these interactive examples. These are completely available on the web, and the intention is to show you that if you're listening to our voice, none of the people you're hearing today are superheroes. We're around strong mentors, and the mentors help us use AI to create things like this. And if you're around great people, they will really 10x your ability to use AI to create experiences. For example, I wanted to understand Metatron's cube. You know, Metatron's cube, stacking a platonic solid one by one on top of each other. And then I made it interactive. And there are so many examples of what you can actually do on the web these days. And if you take a look, like this game I showed you in the beginning, this is 3JS. And so as you leave here today, and you've never coded before, you can simply go into ChatGPT and ask it to write me the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to create a website that looks like it was created by an engineer at Apple who created the iPod Nano 4th generation. Let's see what it does. You can open up CodePen. And now it's giving me the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I'm going to put the HTML here, CSS, and JavaScript. And I'm going to call it, I hope this works because we're on the live stream and I don't want to be embarrassed.
Plus, stupider things have worked.
Stupider things have worked. We should end off there. So you can see the code here. So all I'm going to do is copy code. Look at me. I'm a developer. I feel more like a backseat driver, no Diddy, when I'm doing this. You can see it's still giving me the CSS. And it says it's going to create something sleek. All right. Now it's adding the JavaScript. So let me take this CSS and put that right here. Look at that. Let's see what it does. Ooh. Look at that. Not bad, huh? Now let's see what happens with the JavaScript. What is the JavaScript gonna do? Alright. I can save this. Oh wow, look at that. I can click the button. Right? Oh, look at that shading. If you've never seen an experience like that before, welcome. Welcome to what it's like to use AI to code. All of these solutions you're seeing here are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. All of it. And so if you know the language, you can have a very good time in Rome. For the advanced folks in the room, just going to quickly run you through some websites that you may know about or may never have heard of before. Let's say you want to create AI music. 2 options. Suno.com, which is this. Create, add lyrics, add style of music, and now you made music. You can use Udio to create music using AI. You can use Assembly AI to turn audio into text, which you can analyze with AI. You can use DeepGram to similarly transcribe audio files. And these things are like a fraction of a penny. If you want to create a chatbot, VoiceFlow is one of the most popular solutions on the planet. No code. If you want to create AI art, Leonardo.ai is amazing for this. If you want to create automated workflows, N8N is something that Rocky's told me about. You can see a lot of software development is turning into these diagrams where you just plug things together than writing bare code. Make.com, again, very popular for using this node structure to create automated workflows. Let's say you want to create AI video. Domo is really good for this. Can you imagine? Everything you're seeing here, you can do right now. Viggle is very popular for doing this AI replacement of people. Comfy UI, I won't say anything. I think their website does a good job. Cursor.com is what we're all using to create code, but there's also a new contender that has emerged, Windsurf Editor. TensTorrent by Jim Keller. Of course, Jim Keller made chips for Intel, AMD, Tesla, and Apple. They just released their Quiet Box for developers. If you want to clone somebody's voice, 11 Labs. 3JS, if you want to see how that game was made, with the guys that are kicking and moving. This is 3JS. Now, for the advanced heads in the room, there is a new type of AI chip coming out called a photonic chip, and it aims to be much better than anything we've created so far. You can see here, a bipartisan group of US lawmakers on Monday urged the Department of Commerce to examine the national security threats from China's development of silicon photonics. And this is something I created, which is a visualizer. Again, this is using 3JS. And you can't hear anything because I muted it. There you go. These are just different examples of what someone who doesn't know how to code, which is myself, can learn to make things happen. Of course, we had a chance to look at Stu's slider game today. You saw me fail miserably. We'll just ignore that. I'm smarter, trust me. We also talked about Meme Goat, the fact that a lot of people lost their money, but it wasn't because the smart contracts failed. Good Vibes in 3 weeks is going to have an amazing event. Talked about that. And then you saw me create a website using ChatGPT. I'm going to stop there. Any thoughts from the audience? And I want to throw to Stu first, because you've transformed from a founder and a salesperson into a game developer, developing games to actually help increase engagement and make more sales. If there's anyone that is, let's just say on the wrong side of 40, feeling left out, what would you tell them about coding and what it's like these days?
Well, yeah. Listen, we've always talked about, get out and be, do your fitness, do your health and all the rest. But this is actually taking your brain to the gym, it's, which is absolutely fun. And I think that's one of the best ways to stay young as well, getting out and just I spend lots of time in this here now, but I've really, challenged the way I've looked at things, analyzing, why is there problems here and there and there. But anybody, listen, jump onto Cursor, and even easier one you've just showed there is CodePen. My goodness, what an amazing! It's all you have to do is copy and paste. Just argue with the chat GBT, tell us, it's so yeah, absolutely anybody should jump on this here. I do know that Gigapeppy is potentially maybe going to set up maybe some little workshops, starting off with the first one be hello world, create a hello world, create a fancy interactive hello world, so it's breaking down that barrier. And once you've, it's the same as anything, it's the same as crypto. Downloading the wallet is never the hardest part. Is getting it off zero is always the hardest part. Once you've done that there, you've broken that big V, then let's go and enjoy the rest. The rest is just using getting to talk to people like yourself. Well, you're always looking for different tools. Like, I've heard this different things you're creating there for content. So many different ways. You've got a very inquisitive mindset, and as well, so yeah. Anybody who wants to do it, just do it.
My old boss used to call it the gun to the head technique. If someone's not doing something, just put a gun to their head. If they start doing it, you don't have a training problem, you have a motivation problem. But if they can't do it with a gun to their head, you have a training problem. Make sure you fix the right problem. It seems to me that a lot of people who are unfamiliar with this space aren't doing it because they can't, but because there's a fear holding them back.
Absolutely. Listen, the first time when I was we go through this element every time. We started off with getting onto Cursor. I was like, oh man, what happens if I make a mess? And you're like, it's fine, don't worry. It's everything. What do you call that artist? I can never remember. Bob. Oh my goodness.
Bob Ross.
Oh, Bob Ross.
Bob Ross.
Bob
There's
Barker.
never mistakes. There's only expressions. Is that what he said? Something we got there? Never mistakes. There's only an expression.
Happy accidents.
Happy accident.
Yep. Happy accidents.
Different context.
That's what he calls them.
Happy accidents can lead to happy alimony. You gotta watch out.
Every time we jump onto a different platform, we went to GitHub, I was like, there's a whole stress element. You're like, but don't worry about it. Just, it's fine. Same with went on to, what's the other one? We went then to Netflix. And then all of a sudden, I've got this fully functional working website. But yet again, it does take a mentor to be able to have that calm voice as such, to say, a voice of reason to say, listen, it's fine, don't worry,
So I have a question. The code, so I can put into GPT or Cursor, give me code for this.
Absolutely.
And give me that. And then I can go into CodePen. I don't even need to get into VSC. I don't have to deal with that bullshit, because that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, that's fine.
But CodePen I can use to do, basically I just drop the code in and it'll show me what it is. And I can just play around with it in there, or go back to GPT and say, do this. And then
I use
and then
CodePen.
just deploy it on my website.
I use CodePen for the last 4 years. It's only in the last 2 months that I started using like Visual Studio Code and all these other things, because I didn't know what to do when I installed it. I was like, oh, this looks nice. It's something else I don't know how to use. And with CodePen, I just asked ChatGPT to create a web solution using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, copy and paste it over, and now I have something I can share rapidly within seconds.
If I may intersect there as well, for depending on, there's no cost involved. There's absolutely zero cost. You don't have to buy fancy software. You don't have to buy anything fancy. Just have your computer, off you go, and have fun. Cursor. Now, what is Visual Studio? I used Visual Studio. I found it very heavy and cumbersome on my computer. Whereas I find Cursor is definitely a very lightweight version. And also, yet again, there's zero cost. All these things here are zero cost or very minimal cost, as well. So you're not as if you're going, my goodness, if I have to do this, well, I'm going to have to invest hundreds or thousands of dollars, and just go have fun, Make mistakes. That's how you're going to learn,
So what's next for you? It's so funny because when I met you, we were talking about NFTs and ordinals, and now you don't talk about any of that stuff. You just call me up and ask me to try out the new archive.zip that you WhatsApped me with your solution, right? That's all we talk about now. We don't talk about any assets or anything. You're just telling me about the games you're making right now, and I love it.
Well, listen, as I just showed a quick preview earlier on, like, I mean, just something for fun, because I think, there's too much emphasis at the moment of like, what's the next thing that's going to pump? What's going to pump? What's going to pump? And I think, like, I mean, this frenzied notion of going, running as, like, I always imagine this like, it's like a little Jack Russell at the side of the motorway, running after a wheel, when you're going, okay, well, once you've got this token that you think it's going to go, well, what are you going to do with it? Then what? Like, but you've run around, you're trying to go. Whereas this here, these little games, I've created a new one. I was called it's just for Stacks. It's like a Space Invader, where Stacks is actually blasting the other tokens out there, and it's purely for fun. There's no connecting wallet. It's just a bit of fun, and we're hopefully you can want to maybe interact as well. Maybe some artists in here. Or maybe you can, if you get the highest score, maybe if you want to link that to some of the projects, that maybe they can give a leaderboard and they want to give some tokens, or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's about, yet again, as I said, it's all about bringing people together. Having fun, bringing people together. That's how you win. No competition.
Vibes before we end off. Anything that you've noticed in the past week? What's your focus before the end of the year? We have about 30 days of business before the end of the year. Before people start packing up their mental decision making for this fiscal, what's on your mind over the next 30 days? I love it. That's a good point. I never thought of it. Vibes, what do you think? What's your focus over the next 30 days?
Well, currently for us, we're looking at our own coin. We were debating if it's going to start as a meme coin or a utility token. If we were going to wrap our offering with utility, because our apps provide so much utility, it was a natural extension to, instead of the traditional currency we use right now, which is a freemium version of the apps, we were thinking maybe if we tie the coin to it, holders get special access. We were looking at that, but there's such a frenzy right now with meme coins. I don't know. I actually don't fully know, but to speak out loud, it's going to be one or the other in the next 30 days.
GPSC, peace. I'll let you have the final words and take us out. Thank you. Thanks for having us, and thanks for allowing us to do Season 0, Episode 1. Last week was Episode 0. GPSC, peace, an honor.
Oh, man, thank you so much for coming out and doing this, Michael. I think this is value to the ecosystem. I love what Stu's doing and what GPSC has been using it for. I think Vibes is onto some great stuff there from his end. Aiden coming on and what he's building, and last week the guests we had. I mean, it's just there's just more and more. I see. Obviously, this is a trending and emerging industry, and it really is. So the main thing is the idea that we're going to see a massive shift towards entrepreneurship, hopefully, and necessarily. And a lot of that is actually the door has been made, or the path to that has been, we've had decades upon decades of eradication of the middle class, of the ownership society, business ownership society. We don't have as many small and intermediate businesses. Everything's been very consolidated. So this
especially
is
post-COVID, right? COVID wiped a lot
even
of small
for
businesses
decades
out.
before that, though.
Really?
A lot of the
Is
family
that what you-
businesses,
Really?
a lot of the family businesses from decades ago no longer exist, and they've been going out for generations. Actually, that's why we have less of a middle class in the U.S. And so this is it's a natural reaction, actually, for humanity to kind of swing back towards. It's the same reason why we developed decentralized communications networks like Bitcoin and everything expanding off of that. It's because it's going to empower individuals to balance out the consolidation of power and the massive corporatization of our social networks and social industries and whatnot. So I do see that as a logical direction, and I think these tools will help facilitate that very rapidly, actually.
Want to shout out our unofficial sponsor today, which is Together Alone. Have you ever wanted to hang out with other people, just hated being around other people? Well, that's why we created Together Alone. With Together Alone, you have the best of both worlds. And so the next time someone asks you to hang out, say, sure, let's get together. But this time, let's get together separately. Together alone.
Kind of
Let's
like we're
get
doing
together.
right now.
Alone. Exactly.
Huh? I like it. Is that actually a thing?
It should be, right?
No.
You don't like the idea of together alone?
Well, it works on a couple of levels, like the general it creates.
We're all watching your brain work.
Well, yeah, that's how it goes for me.
I love
But the cognitive dissonance of two different words that have opposite meanings, like walking in a room and saying now then, it actually gets, so it's a good trick for that. But I don't know what you're selling me on there yet.
Together Alone, launching soon. Stu, GPSC vibes. Shout out to Aiden, who left for class. This has been a great show about personal transformation. All of us are being affected by AI, whether we want to be affected by it or not. And I think that we're so immersed in this that we forget that we're having one of the most unique experiences that exist in a universe, which is we are living beings watching a being created with different materials. We're protein based, and now these are silicon based beings that are coming into existence that are also trading meme coins and are also replying to your posts. And it's going to get harder and harder to tell the two apart, the protein from the silicon.
Kind of brings up a question about how much we revere our own creators, maybe, as we are the creators of AI. Well, we are the creators in this sense, right? And maybe we're not really all that almighty and powerful, and our design is not infallible. It's still actually being worked on.
It's funny. I find that there's a phrase, we were made in God's image. What I've observed is that most people have created religions out of creating God out of their own image.
True. It's very true.
And I find that at the same time, if you don't have a solid foundation in yourself, AI actually causes people to question their divinity. Because their divinity and their feeling of being something special in the world is having the things that animals don't seem to have, even though they do, which is the ability to converse and foresight. It's an interesting time.
It's just a level of sophistication, actually, right? But now we're opening up a whole nother subject of topics that maybe I don't want to belabor. Yeah, next week. But yeah, man, this has been great. Thank you everyone for joining. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on before we wrap up, Michael?
No.
Excellent. Thank you guys all for joining today. We are DeOrganized. We've had an awesome panel of guests. I'd like to see more of you guys out soon. Thank you, Stu. Thank you, GPSC. Vibes. Pleasure, my man. And Michael, great show. Great stuff. I love what you're putting together here, and we'll have to keep doing it. I am Peace, Love, Music. We are DeOrganized Media, coming at you on Bitcoin Live Decentralized Broadcasting. If you like the content you saw today, follow Bitcoin Live and follow DeOrganized Media. That's at DeOrganized BTC on X. And we'll be coming at you with more of this type of content regularly and in an expanding fashion. Thank you all for coming out today. Y'all have a blessed day.